Welcome to Jimmy's Records and Tapes. I'm Jimmy Pardo. This week we're talking about 1990.
We've got it on vinyl, CD and cassette.
We've got pop rock, heavy metal, punk, funk, rap, and new wave. All sales are final, but you'll never regret all the music you get at Jimmy's Records and Tapes.
I'm loving music again.
Hey everybody, welcome to Jimmy's Records and Tapes. I am the Jimmy in Jimmy's Records and Tapes. Talking about 1990, it's a new decade, right? Lots of interesting stuff going on. They found the biggest prehistoric fossil of a T-Rex in 1990, and they named her Sue after the archaeologist that discovered her. And you can see that full T-Rex. I guess it's full. Maybe there's a couple of bones missing. I don't know how many bones constitutes the biggest fossil ever found. Anyway, you can see that at the Field Museum in Chicago, Illinois. These are things that happened in 1990. The Hubble Space Telescope launched in April, so we could take a look at the space, right? Tom Hanks was never happier. Milli Vanilli had their Grammy stripped away. And again, Tom Hanks was never happier. Imelda Marcos, boy oh boy, we remember her for her shoes, but she also had legal trouble. But all we seem to care about here in the States were the amount of shoes that she had. The woman liked her shoes. How many can you wear at once? One pair. Unless you're a crazy person in a circus, put on more than one pair. It's up to you. I've never seen somebody wear more than one pair of shoe. I've worn a sock on a shoe. I wear a sock with a sandal, and I know that people like to make fun of that. Some notable deaths in 1990, and it's sad to bring that up. Jim Henson passed away, which of course made Kermit the Frog very, very sad and gave him a new voice. Greta Garbo, we lost the great Greta Garbo, which was very upsetting at my house. And of course, Sammy Davis passed away. I'm talking about Junior now. We lost Senior back in '88. What does your money get you in 1990, the year of our Lord? Well, gas is $1.34. A house is $123,000. You want yourself get yourself a pair of blue jeans, Levi's brand, $35. Top television shows were Cheers, 60 Minutes, Roseanne, and the movies you can enjoy: Goodfellas, Home Alone, Miller's Crossing, and everybody enjoyed when that little box thing happened with Julia Roberts and the great Richard Gere, and she would chuckle, and it seemed so real, and we just remember that, and then think that it was a good movie. And of course, that movie is Pretty Woman. Musically, let's talk about what was happening in 1990. The best-selling song of the year was Hold On by Wilson Phillips. A couple of kids from famous people put together a band and then had a hit song with it. The best-selling album, long play, LP, Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation 1814. And their Grammy Awards that were given out in 1991 for accomplishments in 1990. Mariah Carey was the best new artist. And the album of the year, of course, was Quincy Jones's Back on the Block. You know, as a young man in Chicago, when that album came out, we all just raced to the record store to get Quincy Jones's new album. And the truth is, it's a pretty good album, but I don't know a single human being that was like, yes, he won. Honey, go to Vegas and collect our money. But today's album from Jimmy's record collection here at Jimmy's Records and Tapes is Red Moon by a band called The Call. This album, Red Moon, was produced by Michael Bean and the rest of the band, The Call. They are a band that hailed out of Santa Cruz, California. Michael Bean, Tom Ferrier, Scott Musick, and Jim Goodwin. Sadly, Michael Bean passed away in 2010 when he was the sound engineer for his son, Robert Levon Bean's band, Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. A few years later, his son, Robert Levon Bean, regrouped with the surviving members of The Call and did some reunion shows. A show that I found out about while it was happening here in Los Angeles. I just was like, hey, I wonder what The Call's been up to lately. And they were performing right down the street. And by the time I got in my car and got down there, they were no longer performing right down the street. The show was over, which was a bummer. I had seen The Call back in the 80s, I want to say on the Reconcile tour. They performed at the Vic Theater in Chicago, and I was underage, and I had to sneak in. And in order to do that, I snuck in at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon and acted like I worked there. I just walked around, and anybody that questioned me, I would go, yeah, I'm taking care of that. And they would go, what are you doing here? I go, I'm working for that guy. And I just, I killed time for 4 hours so that I could see The Call at the Vic Theater in Chicago. This album, Red Moon, is terrific. It's got great songs on it like What's Happened to You, You Were There, Floating Back, I think is a terrific song. This Is Your Life. If you don't know anything about The Call, you may know one song that they played quite a bit, When the Walls Came Down, which was a big hit for them. More video hit than it was a radio hit. I Still Believe was a great song. Let the Day Begin, Al Gore used as his campaign song when he was running for president. And I forget what happened. Did he win? How did that play out? I forget how that played out. Anyway, this is a political show. This is all about music. What I remember about this album, Red Moon by The Call, is one night I was listening to it as I would drive to and fro stand-up gigs, and I was doing Catch a Rising Star in Chicago, and I was all into this album. I did my set. I'm sure it went terrifically. When I was done, I was like, hey, I get to listen to that new Call album on my way out of there. And as I was walking to my car, there was another car in the parking lot, a snowy parking lot, doing donuts. Just a car spinning around and just going crazy. I'm like, look at this crazy, look at this a-hole. What's this guy doing? And then the car stops, and I look in, and it's actor John Cusack. He was apparently just at the show. I was told that after I was relaying this story. Oh, yeah, he comes to the Country Rising Star all the time. He watches shows. He was at the show and then apparently got so amped up from comedy, said, I got to go out there and do some donuts in the parking lot. And he was doing crazy donuts, and it scared the hell out of me because it always looked dangerous. What also looked dangerous to me was skeeching, and some people call it skitching. Some people call it bumper surfing. In Chicago, where I grew up, we called it skeeching. And what that meant was a car would be driving past you, and you would grab onto the back bumper, back when there were bumpers on automobiles, and you would basically just like surf along behind the car. And it always looked scary to me. And I would never want to do it because I was always afraid, like, I'd be the one guy that grabbed on, that guy would stop, and I'd keep moving, and I would get run over by his tire in a way that isn't even physically possible, but it scared the heck out of me anyway. One day, Mike Duty convinced me to do it, and I grabbed on to the bumper, man. Mike was on one side of the bumper, I was on the other one, and the guy felt us grab on, and he yells out, "Get off the bumper!" And I was like, we're hanging on, man. I'm finally doing this. I finally have the guts to do it. Get off, get off, get off. And he stops the car and goes, out the window, I'm not kidding. If you don't get out, my kids are going to kick the crap out of you. And we're like, all right. So he keeps going. We keep going. The car stops. The two kids get out. They push us down to the snow, and they literally kick the crap out of us. This week's quick hit is Tomorrow Wendy by the great Andy Prieboy. I had first heard the song Tomorrow Wendy on Concrete Blonde's Bloodletting album, and it was my favorite song on the album, so I did a little deep dive, and by that I mean I read the liner notes, and it said written by Andy Prieboy, and I was like, I don't know who Andy Prieboy is. You think I should know who that is? It turned out he was the guy that replaced Stan Ridgeway in Wall of Voodoo for a couple of albums, and then he released some solo albums. His first one was Upon My Wicked Son, and the second one was Sins of Our Fathers. And he did a version of Tomorrow Wendy that is heart-wrenching, man. It is a very sad song about a woman dying of AIDS, and it is a haunting, heart-wrenching song that I recommend that you listen to. I know that's a weird thing to say, but Andy packs a lot of emotion, and Jeanette from Concrete Blonde actually will do some of the verses in this version, and their voices mixing is wonderful. Andy Prieboy got some acclaim in the 90s when he did White Trash Wins Lotto, which was a musical that he put together and would perform at Largo in Los Angeles. He also was in the pilot presentation of Jimmy Pardo's Dance Party. Andy was the musical guest, and he would come out and play Psycho X. But the song I'm talking about here today is Tomorrow Wendy by Andy Prieboy. Check it out. Thank you for joining me on this week's Jimmy's Records and Tapes. If you enjoyed it, click like, tell your buddies about it. Your other vinyl collecting friends, talk to them about it. I'm on Twitter at Jimmy Pardo. Hey, head to my website, jimmypardo.com, where you can get tour dates, find out where I'm going to be. You can also buy some merch if that's your bag. I also host the award-winning podcast, Never Not Funny. So check that out if you would. Until then, the record is back in its sleeve.